My name is Parrish, and she's pleased to meet you. I was born in Santa Monica in the post-World War era visually as a boy. My name was Randy. I was the second of five, 4 boys and a girl. I had an older brother by 3 years who always had my back. He was the responsible one. I was the different one. Different hair, different attitude, and much higher sensitivity. My family was run in a military fashion by my father. My mom was a mild-mannered, loving housewife who grew up in the Midwest. I related closely to my grandmother and to my mom. In elementary school, our classes were very large and averaged more than 30 students. Being very shy, I was the one who sat in the back of the classroom where I learned my first survival skill. Being invisible and becoming a chameleon. I was one of those who rarely got called upon and was the last to be chosen for teams. The bullying began early on. I was heavily teased and commonly picked on by those who needed a pecking order. I certainly gave them plenty of material. A case in point, in the 2nd grade, I would walk around behind the girls copying how they walked, how they talked, and how they moved, and especially when they twirled their large, full skirts. I liked to borrow my girlfriend's lunchboxes at school. I imagined that this made me one of them, and I really liked that. This minor feminine behavior was an instant dogpile invitation for the punks. Sometimes even the girls picked on me. Music was my great escape, though. For me, when the Beatles released I Want to Hold Your Hand, I tried something new. I found a wig and jumped up on top of the hearth of the fireplace, played the air guitar, and lip-synced. One of my favorites, my other favorites, was Doris Day's Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. For me, this song had hidden meanings. Will I grow up to be a woman? At home, any feminine behavior was met with family humiliation and denial of self-expression. My dad would say, "Don't act like a girl. You're acting gay. Don't be that way. When you act this way, you're disgracing yourself and me, your father." I stood there confused. Don't act what way? I'm a kid. I only know one way. So I learned another survival skill. Don't animate your feelings around other people, and for sure, no twirling. My favorites were, and still are, flowy dresses. I would sneak them from my sister's closet and hide them between the blankets of my bed. No one caught on to as why my bed was always made. My mom had to have known, but she never said anything. I planned in advance what I would say if I were caught. I would blame my sister, mainly because she would deny everything anyway. Thus another survival skill, distraction and misdirection. In the 5th and 6th grade, while other boys were playing sports, I became friends with the girls in my class. I loved observing what the girls would wear. I enjoyed the way that they talked about all the playground relationships, such as who liked whom, who hated whom, who was in and who was out. The boys hated this. It resulted in name-calling, getting slugged in the shoulder, and the constant stealing of personal items, including destroyed lunches. I ended up in the nurse's office, then the counselor's office, and they told me it was my behavior that was inviting all this trouble. Alienated by school staff, male students, and family, I could find no safe environment in which to grow. All I was trying to do was to be myself. In high school, I completely hid my feminine behavior and grew awkward in appearance and was hopelessly, clueless in social interaction. I had a tall string bean body and even had a pocket protector for all my 3-color pens hidden beneath my sweater to protect my plaid shirt. I had below average grades and I was poorly rounded as students go, and yet I was talented in technology with a nerd minor. After high school, I found a few part-time jobs assembling and repairing electronics that made me feel valuable. I could appreciate complicated things that worked well. But while this was going on, I was growing more depressed. I was suppressing my feminine side, pretending to be masculine, and it was destroying my excitement for life. I was only in my early 20s, so I began filling all my time with work. I got consulting jobs working on complex precision printed circuit boards for General Dynamics. I just felt like I had to do something. I had to do this. But I didn't really care about this. I found being alone without peers, working long, boring hours, and studying was not giving me a reason to continue. This was also the time my mother died, and I spun even deeper into depression. If it wasn't for loud rock and roll, motorcycles, loud music, and the love of the desert, I'm not sure I'd be here. So, still confused about myself, I figured my best shot was to try to be a man, get a good job, get a wife, have a couple of kids, and figure it out from there. I went life numb within a couple years. By numb, I mean I had a beautiful wife and I had children. I had a good job. But I had few friends of my own, and I had a mundane existence. So this is what being a man is all about. Maintenance, working forever for money, staying low, avoiding risk, holding myself back and in check. No. I was aimless, hopeless, and looking for help. Who's my advocate? Where's my support system? I wasn't interested in anything, and there was little enjoyment. I was living everyone else's idea of what I was, feeling little excitement and no deep drive, but inside I just wanted to spin and twirl. I was an of a husband, depressed, boring, and a workaholic. And my wife needed more in her life. She needed more excitement, good friends, party, travel, and, well, you know, the normal stuff. I didn't offer much of this. So we figured out a non-destructive way of parting, a very successfully planned divorce, a parting of ways where the children never saw a fight, because there never were any. 10 years went by with a couple girlfriends. One night I stopped at the Burger King on Balboa with my 2 daughters and saw this dark-haired, nicely dressed woman with her son waiting in line. I introduced myself and my daughters, and we discovered our children knew each other and attended the same high school. She was a strong, powerful, 6'1" German woman with a stern appearance and a black and white decision-making skill. I liked this. We communicated for months, got together with our families, and felt we wanted more. Our love grew, and we compared our mutual life needs and wants, and 18 months later, we were married. We merged our families and moved into Claremont. The kids finished high school and all went off to college. Over the next 11 years, they grew independent and started their own lives while we continued to work. During this time, I was also trying to build a better, stronger relationship with my father. When I saw him, I would ask him, "How are you doing? What family events are coming up? And is there anything new in your life?" And he would say, "Not much." Then he would ask me how I was doing. And I would tell him all the things that I was doing. And he would say or ask, "How are you really? How's Randy?" God, did that make me upset? This would drive me nuts when I get those questions because you were always probing. I couldn't tell if this question was genuine or just another probe. After a lifetime of shame, I didn't want to share with him who I really was anymore. Even at 80 years of age, he would ask me questions about I would ask about different family relationships or move my hands when I was talking too much. And it would make him uncomfortable. And he would say, "Could you just tone that down a little bit?" When my dad died, I changed. Within months, I started experimenting with nail polish, makeup, and pretty clothing. And these feelings were out of this world for me. I could not contain the smiling and lightness of feeling the sad. I did not tell my wife everything yet, only that I really liked my feminine side. I got a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a gender psychologist, then an endocrinologist, and within 2 years, I was on hormones. When I got my hormones, I told my wife I would really like to occasionally take on the role of female at home. My wife of 14 years was supportive, helping me with clothing, makeup, and my wigs. A couple of months later, she hit a mental wall and stopped sharing what she was actually thinking. I was incapable at this time of putting words into what was going on with me, and I was certainly in no hurry to get this information out to the world. She, on the other hand, within days contacted all her friends with letters and phone calls, telling them of my desires. Even though she had asked my permission to go public with my desires, either way, I was helpless to stop her. I could not believe how fast my wife was turning against me. She arranged for me to house sit our son's house in San Francisco for a month alone. I came back to a fully inventoried estate with divorce papers and a wife with no forwarding address. What the hell? My ex-non-friends had helped her go through my personal safes, business papers, bank statements, all to gather data for the fight which we would never have. While I wasn't home, she cherry-picked the house with our son and her friends and then disappeared. Communication failed, arbitration failed, and the only communication link I had was through her hard-ass attorney. I was out of work, I had no credit cards because they'd been closed, and a mortgage. I was living on oatmeal, peanut butter, Cheez-Its, and vitamins for the first 4 months. I lost 42 pounds, and now my clothes no longer fit as well. The attorneys took all the cash that I did receive when I sold anything I could sell. My siblings, most friends, and immediate family refused to take any of my calls. I've never felt so ostracized and alone. It was the most emotional damage I had ever sustained. Ejected into a world of silence and emotional entrapment, I crashed. I was so depressed that I would leave the TV on for weeks at a time just to hear the voices. And did I mention that I was going through a personal gender crisis while on estrogen? During that time, I think my tear ducts doubled in size. I didn't think it was possible. It has been 5 years since that divorce, and I've only regained about 25% of my family and my friends I had before. But my life is so much simpler now, and so much happier. My real friends are back. I have a whole new life as a woman. Amazing. And I have a really amazing sweetheart, a lovely lady who cherishes the real me. 2 of my children are now accepting of me, but they do not touch any gender topics yet. My other child is no longer in contact. One of my brothers is presently very accepting of me, and the other one is tolerant, but questions my psychological state. My good friends enjoy getting together and are full of relevant questions, which I love answering. I feel alive. I have learned the longer that I have known someone, the more gender mistakes they will make. I'm just glad they're willing to try. The knowledge that there are so many different people out there who are in much tougher position than I am has given me a perspective that helping them is much more important than feeling sorry for myself. So you will find me volunteering at Scripps, Green Hospital, Scripps Torrey Pines, and the Metropolitan Community Church of San Diego. It's my new life. I am a very fortunate person because I have got to live 2 lives, both of which were successful. I have a 2-gender mind, and I can see both sides of an argument and during arbitration. A somewhat different perspective, which very few have, and internally very conflicting as well. I am happy now with who I am, and I can feel it for the first time. Don't do that. I am who you see and more. You may ask, and I wish you would, what are my pronouns? I never really understood why people hated labels. I love them. I always wanted a label so I could know who I was and where I fit. And it's comforting to say, this is who I am. This is my label. And I twirl. I am Ree, and she's happy to meet you. And my pronouns are she, hers, and her. Hers. Thank you.